And let's share my screen. And John, as soon as you see your presentation pop up, go ahead and jump on in and share some of your thoughts. And that would be right now. You just let me know when you're ready to go to the next slide, and I will do that for you.
Okay, thank you. Hello, team. Well, this is my philosophy here of in regards to sales. I know this is what I want to do for the rest of my career. So I knew I had to come up with a system so that I don't have to be struggling, fighting for the sale every day. And just using some of my experience from sales engineering in the past, I brought some of those ideas that are applicable to this industry, and that's what I'm doing here. So the idea is that instead of working hard every single day chasing just a one sale, we have to do that at the beginning, but then also allocate some time to build a farm. In this case, means a network of professionals, a network of groups of people, churches, other associations. So that's the concept behind this, that we build an infrastructure. So that not every lead is cold. You turn hundreds of people into warm leads by associating yourself with these groups. Instead of, again, you're chasing one at a time. You can please go to the next slide.
Hey, John, I'm going to...
So as I said there...
John,
go ahead.
John, I'm going to mute the whole team for a second, so just unmute yourself when we get everybody muted, okay?
Okay. Sure.
All right. Go ahead and unmute yourself now. Perfect. Thank you.
Okay. Okay. So the purpose of chasing the daily rabbit, that's looking for the sale every day. We have to do that. We have no choice. Especially we're new, like myself, one of my heroes, Diana, I see she's doing sales almost every day. I'm not there yet. I haven't earned the right to talk. Like when she talks, I listen because she's doing something right. For me, again, it's bringing my experience into this industry. And I know right now I have to work hard to get that one sale. But at the same time, I'm making an extra effort, working an extra 2 to 3 hours and just building the network. So I do that early in the mornings, usually from 8 to about 10:30. I work on putting a program together, making the phone calls or emails, designing something, and then the rest of the day just making phone calls, taking care of appointments as well. We had to do that simultaneously. Eventually, the farm will be big enough to where we won't have to be chasing the one sale. So that's the purpose of that. And I know the danger of this could be we become so good at chasing the rabbit every day that we forget about the farm. We're building the farm. Next slide, please. Next slide.
Trying. There's a slight here. Let's see if we can get it to move. There it goes. Oh. All right, you're good.
So the magic of creating synergetic value. My boss of 15 years, he taught me this, that synergy means 1 + 1. It's not 2. It's 5, 10, or 20, or 30. That means you plus a key member of your network. It can be a pastor of a church, can be a leader of a VA group in your area. So you plus that one person can mean not one sale, but 5, 10, 15 sales or more. So that's the magic of creating synergy or synergetic value. So what we need to ask ourselves is, who else is providing services to our target client? And I was forced to do this from my prior occupation because I wanted to get, for instance, in the company Tesla, which I did in the past when they were in their beginnings, and I had no way of getting to that company. There's no way I was going to talk to the owner of the company, and you have all these gatekeepers that won't allow you to go in. So I started thinking, who else is servicing them? So I got a hold of a bunch of other salespeople in the industrial world. There were offering other services like selling abrasive materials, air tools, all kinds of other things. All they had to do is just take me in and introduce me to the buyer of that company. So that's where I got this idea that if we're going to get into a particular group or a church, we need to just ask ourselves who else is servicing them. Is it someone from maybe healthcare, like a healthcare counselor? Just be creative at the group that you're trying to get into, and ask yourself who else is servicing that group. Maybe a VA representative, and just start writing down those names, and those are going to be your future contact. Value-added services go long ways. So it doesn't really cost us anything. It builds and it strengthens relationships, and it's also a win-win for everybody. And I want to explain a little bit more on that in the next slide. So this is what I'm doing already here at White Emerson. I'm offering clients free complimentary professional counseling. We have to be very careful with that phrase, but I do have a professional licensed counselor who volunteered to assist our clients. And I have other pastors that have offered their services, but I offer them as pastoral, spiritual advice and support. And I always say that it's complimentary and it's a third party, just for liability purposes. But I already have these people, and I can tell you so many stories already, probably at least 7 stories of people that I talk to for aftercare, and when I call them, they're going through a very hard time. I had one case where the client was contemplating suicide, and I immediately referred her to this doctor. It's Dr. Lolita. She's a pastor of a church around the corner from here, and she talked to her. Then I can tell you many other cases. In fact, the person I just sold right before the meeting, same thing. She was going through a very hard time, and I sent her to this counselor for advice. So we're working with her. And what do they gain from this? They're always looking to reach out to the community and get more members into their congregations. So you're given them the opportunity to work with the ones that have the greatest need at the moment. And at the same time, we're creating value for the customer. We're offering all these other extra services. And again, in this case, the churches are benefiting from their outreaching efforts. As you know, churches spend a lot on doing outreaching events and programs, and you're bringing the people to them. So it's a win-win. At the same time, I'm creating a relationship with her in her church so that she can send her members for pre-planning and also at need. They both benefit the business. Maybe we don't get any commission on the at need basis, but the funeral home gets a benefit from it. And then we just work on the other pre-need cases. Sorry for the misspell there, the free vouchers. So I spoke to a lawyer that was recommended here by White Emerson that does wills and trusts. And I asked him, can you do at least 30 minutes of free advice? And you know, it will be bringing the customers to you, and then you take care of them. And they trust you, they take care of them. But at least we're giving them at least 30 minutes. You're not charging them for those 30 minutes. They offer an hour. So they're giving them an hour of free legal advice. So when someone asks for wills and trusts, I have someone to send them to that was highly recommended. And now I know that he can send customers to us as well. I also spoke to a realtor just around the corner as well. That he offered to do free appraisals for customers. In some cases, when the spouse died and they want to sell the home so that the wife or the husband go to another facility for special care, then they can help them in selling the property and doing this other thing. So it's just value-added service that I'm offering now to customers. The property appraisal is a new one. Just started doing that last week. Also talking to the pastors at the churches. Churches have so many resources. So they offer the musicians, if they want someone to play the piano or they want someone to play a song for a veteran, then they have all these resources available along with a group that goes and serves as receptions. So that part I'm working on. I haven't used them yet, but we're assembling a team, and I want to be able to at least have three, so that at any time we have at least three options where to pull from. As of right now, I have three pastors that are involved with this, and two other counselors that are members of churches, but they're not pastors. So next slide. So this right here was my answer to Paul White's question when I started here. He said, well, actually, I asked him, how many cases do we have a week approximately? He said, we get probably 2 to 3 a week, but I would like to have more. I need to increase my market share. So I started thinking, how am I going to do that? I want to definitely increase the market share for them, and at the same time for me. So I started thinking of where those leads are going to come from. So I thought of, okay, AC leads, those are the aftercare leads, those are one, special events, the churches, other networks, referrals, and then call, mail, call you. We all know what that is. Then based on that, I thought of the ways I was going to get the customers through each one. I haven't been able to develop all these programs. It's going to take me months to do all that. So I'm focusing right now on the churches. You can see the list there. If you want a copy of that, or you think it's beneficial to you, you can just ask Wes to send it to you. But you can see the list of my strategies for each one. And under the churches, the networks. Under network, you see, for instance, lawyers, associated businesses or relevant businesses, real estate agents. I already have the one. Medicare agents, I'm still looking for one. Yeah, and so on. But you get the idea, because every area is different, and you also have your own style. Maybe this is just a template that you can use on something that worked for you in your area and your state. Underneath that, you see weekly projections. So I thought of, with the same effort, where can I get the most leads? That's where I figured out that I can get a lot more from the churches and the aftercare and the aftercare contacts than with all the other ones. But my goal is to work on all the other ones as well and develop special programs. On the next slide, I'll talk about another one that I wasn't really thinking of it, and it just appeared out of nowhere, and now, it's working out for me as well. On the next slides.
I gotta shrink it down here. There you go. Are you there?
Okay, so time management. Yeah, I suggest, that's just a suggestion. Like I said, it's different in every area. I suggest you work on this 8 to 10:30 in the morning. That gives you a couple of hours, 2.5 hours, maybe 3, to work on your projects, and that can include making the calls to some of the pastors that usually up early, and just talk to them. So about talking to pastors, I wanted to expand a little bit more about that. I first started asking, what can I do to help you? How can we be more support of you? And I wasn't really going very far with that. So I changed the question to, I need your help. And that just worked. I started getting very good responses from them once I asked them, I need your help. And it was based on people that was calling for aftercare, and they were going through a hard time. And then I will call the pastors and tell them, I have a situation here. Can you help them? I don't want to mix, being a minister with selling pre-need in my job. Can you help me with this? Can you give them some advice? Can you pray for them? Can you invite them to your church? And obviously they were going to say yes. So that started working, and I actually had to put the brakes on that for a little bit because I have enough to work with. And once I feel that I got the ball rolling a little more, then I'll invite other pastors to continue to join the team. So just a, in addition, it's not in the slices, but if that helps you, that's what's working out for me right now. Just asking them for help. And as I develop the relationship, then I can ask that other question: what else can we do to help you? Or what can we do from our side to help you and alleviate some of the burden, financial burden in the church when some of the members pass? Let me see what else. Identify your champions. That's the part that I said that it came out of nowhere. I had this one customer that I was ready to sell to her, and then she tells me, I already have a plan somewhere else. And so I'm working on transferring her to White Emerson. She really likes that. And she said, I know so many people. She's very, very involved in the community. All day, she's just making calls and talk to people to see how they're doing. She doesn't sell anything. She's the kind of person that cares a lot about others. So then that idea came on, and I said, what if we put an event together and you invite some people over? And she said, of course, I would love to do that. So we already have an event for the end of this month on June the 30th at 11. We're going to have a lunch and learn, and it's going to be only for 9 people plus her, so 10. And when I invite him over, but she is so sold out into pre-planning, so she's my champion. She knows way more than 9 people, so we're going to do several of this. But the point is, if we can find a champion, let's say at a retired community, even at a church, whatever groups you're thinking of, find a champion, and that person can take you to the rest of them. So now you're a friend of a friend. And then create a champions program. I'll show you a little bit of what we created here in the next slides. So that's what we created for her. And I'm not paying any of this. This is White Emerson, the funeral home here, supporting me with it. And it's harder for me to read it from here, but it's pretty much telling her that we would like to give you a token of appreciation for sending all these customers and trusting us with all these customers, which are your friends and family. And this is not a pay. This is just an incentive. So again, I'm not paying for that. This is a funeral home helping with that part, which is great. I shared it with Curtis here, and they thought it was a great idea. They're also paying for the meals on June the 30th. You have to ask probably your director out there, and just make sure that you don't do anything illegal, because I know the sharing commission can be illegal in some states, or the way you structure it. But you just run it through one of your leaders, and they'll probably tell you what you can do or cannot do. But that's what I'm doing here, though. Next slide. And this will be the end of it. It's let the dollar chase you. Never follow the dollar. Truly care for people, and the dollar will follow you. This is a principle that my dad taught me. That never go after the money, because then you're going to be cutting corners just to get to the dollar, and sometimes compromising character and principles and values just to get to the dollar. When you do it the other way around, where you just care for people and you're genuine about it, the people can sense that. You also have a review. I'm very humble about that, but that was one of many cases where people would tell me, I'm coming with you because I can tell that you really care. They really care for people, and that's because I'm going out of my way to find them help and support. And it's nice when it's the other way around. You're just caring for people, and the money is just following you. So I know it's brief. That's all I have to share for the moment. A little bit of late notice to prepare this, so hopefully it's useful for you.
Thank you, John. Does anybody have any questions for John? Feel free to unmute yourself. Yeah, questions about how he's approaching some of these partnerships, and if you want to chat as well, you can obviously do that too. So, but is there anybody that what John is
question, John?
Yes.
So with this, and this is kind of more of a question with a statement too. How often are you following up with these people, and how long is it taking you?
The first question I didn't hear.
So how often are you following up with these contacts? And how long does it take you to start receiving some referrals from them?
Okay, so let's say the churches, for instance. I had some good experiences and bad experiences. I called this one church and left a message saying, I need your help. He calls me back. I explained to him what I was trying to do. And he said, I don't have time for that. This is not what I do. So I said to myself, good. I don't want people like that. This is not for everybody. If they don't see value in helping people, then I don't want them. And same thing with customers. I'll get back to the answering the question in a moment, but same thing with customers. If someone comes in saying that, oh, you're $500 more expensive and saying all these things, and they don't really value what we have to offer, I don't try too hard with them. They don't deserve to be our customers, because we are really going to take care of them. And if they don't see value, that's for customers, and it's also for our partners. That's why I mentioned that. So they usually call back right away when you say that you need their help. And then from there, if they see value in what you have to offer, then they're going to go with it. And usually it's the next day. I would say that was my experience. Once I start asking that question, can you help me with this? Then they would usually call the next day. So 24 hours, 48 hours, it's a very quick response from them. And what was the other question?
Well, and then the other question is, how often are you following back up with these people? Because, and I'll kind of make a statement here, is in the past, when I've done similar things like this, it does take a little bit of a time to gain those trust, just like you're gaining the trust of your clients. You have to gain some of that trust with these pastors and religious groups to be able to get you in there. But you have to do that month after month after month after month and stay consistent. If not, if you go there one time and doesn't get anything and then go back a few months later, it doesn't seem like that. So stay consistent is what I was going to try and say. If you can do that, that'll give you a little bit more success. But I wanted to know how many times you followed up with these people.
Okay, so the answer to that is, that's why I stopped calling the pastors right now, because I only have work enough for the three and the two counselors. So as I'm making the aftercare calls, I see someone who needs assistance, and if they said yes, I will love to have someone call me and assist me with that, then I call them. So I've been sending one person to each. Usually, like every other day, I get someone, as I'm making the aftercare calls, that would love to get that kind of assistance. So I stop at that for the moment. As I get busier, then I'll probably add another pastor or two. And yes, it takes a while to develop those relationships, but to me, that's step number one. And as we're interacting and they're seeing that we're serious and that we also care for people, then the next step will be to hold an event at their church, in an educational event. And Michael and I, we talk about this, about doing something at the churches, but this is just the start. And down the line, when they allow the churches to congregate again, then we'll have those events.
I think part of what we've discussed is how now is a good time to be establishing the relationships and building the trust, because right now we can't gather in large groups, but at some point we will be able to. We can definitely act on what John's been working on so diligently.
John, this is Lou. You've really put together a wonderful presentation. I have a question about the one slide where you, I think you had two, a top and a bottom. I think the top was maybe strategies, and you had events and churches and aftercare and so forth. And the bottom part of that, you had leads and appointments and sales. The numbers on the bottom part for the leads, appointments, and sales, is that actual experience, or is that what you project?
It's a projection based on experience.
Thank you.
Yeah, perfect. So thank you, John, very much for sharing what you've shared. I think there's a couple of just key things in that. One is that you've got to take time to plan this stuff out. I think that sometimes we get we fail to plan, and so we plan to fail, right? And so I think there's a big part of that is that you've got to have a strategy in place. So if you're not taking a little bit of time at the beginning of each week, or even at the beginning of each month, and kind of mapping out really what you're wanting to do with your time, I know for a fact from a very personal perspective that your days get away from you really quick, right? I mean, you come in the office at 8:30, and 5-6 o'clock rolls around, and the day's just flown by. You didn't really have a plan in place, so while you were busy all day long, you can't really say that you accomplished the important tasks that you wanted to accomplish for that day. So I love what John has done just from a planning strategy, that he's taken the time to really plan out a personal marketing strategy for him and for his funeral home that he works for. So I commend you on that. And then the other part that is really important is that he hasn't just planned it out, but he's actually executing as well. So sometimes we have really good ideas. We've got great ideas, and we might even say, well, I'm going to do this, and I'm going to do that, and I'm going to coordinate with this person, and I'm going to reach out to these groups, and then we don't really execute. So I'm really pleased with both elements of that, and what John has shared is that he has he's created a plan, but then he's also following through on that plan. So while he says he hasn't some of those contacts that were in that list, that he hasn't made contact with some of them yet, a Medicare specialist, for example, but I'm pretty confident that he's going to find that person. Just recently finding the agent to be able to offer the free appraisals, for example. So again, you've got to kind of identify that list, create that marketing strategy, and then try to execute it as much as possible. And the best way to do that, and as John has done on his daily calendar, is he sets a time or schedules time specifically for that activity. And I think that's a really key part too, is that from 4 o'clock to 5 o'clock is when he makes those networking phone calls. So you've got to put that in your calendar to make sure that those calls get done. In the morning or early in the week, when you write down your 5 or 10 people that you want to contact, to be able to strengthen those networking relationships, those are the people that you're going to be following up with throughout the week. So great job, John. Thanks for sharing all that you've shared so far.
I just also want to add, you probably all noticed this, but it was powerful when he said he was calling them to, say, is there anything you need? But instead just shifting it to what can I do to help you? Because he's focusing on building that relationship. He's not approaching them with the intention of trying to get a sale. I love that graphic of we're trying to chase the money, where if we build these relationships, and back to your farm analogy, the sales will come more naturally. And it's exactly the same with your aftercare calls. Your goal is not on that first call to make a sale. It's to say, what can I do to help you? You're building that relationship. The sales come just so much easier. You saw that review, if you guys saw on WhatsApp, for John yesterday, the relationship of trust that's built. But that's what he's focusing on, is just build the relationship. Don't think about the referrals or what sales am I going to get. Just start connecting with people. And I commend you for that, John. That's been very impressive to see you do.
So can we get a copy of that presentation to where it gives us an idea as to how we can build our own?
Absolutely. Yeah, we will send out his PowerPoint presentation to each of you after the call. Deanne, are you still on the call? Can you unmute yourself and share with the group some of the things that you've been doing in networking with some of the groups and the business you've been able to get because of it?
Yes, I started networking in about 5 different towns. These networking groups consist of people working in the elder care, whether it is hospice, hospitals, nursing homes. You get the idea.
Right.
So it took me a long time to visit and meet the people, and for them to trust our funeral home and who we said we were. And so now what is happening is they are referring either their patients or their families that are living there, or a lot of hospice people are calling, trying to get people to prearrange their policies. And so that's how the referrals that I get are working.
That's great.
Perfect. And I kind of like how you shared it. It took some time to be able to build trust. And I think that's a really important element of this. Travis has mentioned that, John, Deanne, that it does not happen quickly. That's a really important part of this, is that, and you got to understand too, that there has probably been a history of people coming in there trying to create a relationship that they kind of wait to see if you're going to stick around. And if you're going to be consistent, and then the more consistent you are, as you follow through on things that you say that the funeral home can do or you can do for them, then that trust continues to build and to grow. And these people, these are that synergy principle that John talked about is so important, because these are people that know a lot of people, and they serve families in our ideal market, right? That's the senior or the aging care or senior care market. And so those are really kind of where you want to identify. And I think in a lot of churches and things like that, we'll find that, that the average age of people who regularly attend church is a little bit higher, where the younger people are, think they have all the answers, and they're not at that stage in their life yet. So churches are a great place, but and then those hospice relationships, you may have someone in your funeral home that's doing a little bit of that now. Now, obviously, people who are currently on hospice aren't necessarily the ideal candidate, but you got to remember that these hospice people are not just working with people who are ill and getting ready to pass away, but they also have other family members, and they know a lot of people, and they're out in the community on a regular basis. So there's a very broad group of people that we can work with and create relationships with. So just to kind of go through a few thoughts, this is really probably a repeat from what we've heard so far, and this will go out with the presentation that we send out after the call as well. One of the things that I always found to work really well, again, talking about the Personal Wishes Organizer, this is a really good tool to get in and to speak with networking contacts. So if you're talking to clergy, for example, and you want to show them the Personal Wishes Organizer, we have a funeral planning booklet that's free. The funeral home provides. It's something that members of your congregation will help them a lot. We got to understand from a clergy standpoint that usually when a death occurs, if somebody is active in a church, one of the very first calls they make, if not the first call, is to their clergy person. And so they're oftentimes being put on call 24 hours a day, 365 days a year on taking these calls when one of the members of their congregation passes away. So keep in mind that we can do that. They also, oftentimes churches work with, a lower income congregation. And so pre-planning would be very important to them, because if you've been in this business for any amount of time, a church will oftentimes assist in paying for funeral arrangements. So to be able to provide that option to their congregation to pre-plan is a great thing. So use the Personal Wishes Organizer in these contacts, and when you have a meeting, bring one of those books with you and just say, this is something that we offer to members of your congregation, whether it's a patient, a client, that you can use that book. So again, that book is a tool for these events as well, as we're doing that. Keep in mind that it's a two-way relationship. So you're helping them and they're helping you. If it's a one-way relationship, it's not going to work. So think of ways that you can help them, as John kind of shared, when he provides, to a certain degree, a referral to a church. Here's a person who's maybe not affiliated with the church, and now this pastor has an opportunity to reach out to them. They may be gaining another person in their congregation because of that relationship. So John is helping them by having that pastor reach out. And then of course that pastor is going to obviously provide referrals to John as well because of that. So if you want referrals, you've got to give referrals. This is a really important aspect. So just, a good approach sometimes is especially with more professional organizations, is that I meet with a lot of people, and I would like to know what your ideal client looks like. And so I'd just like to learn a little bit more about your business. Always go in with the approach of wanting to learn more about them, and then that natural opportunity is going to come up where they're going to say, well, tell me a little bit more about what you do. So if you read anything on networking in general, the biggest mistake that people make when they go to networking events and things like that is they want to go there with their brochure and their business card and their elevator speech and want to tell everybody about what they do. And if you read any books on this or articles, you're going to discover people are really good at this will tell you that your goal for the first period of time is to learn as much as you can about them, and then naturally they're going to ask about what you do. So the approach of tell me what your ideal client looks like, that's the way to approach this. So be interested in what they do and then let them ask you what you do, but always start that conversation with learning more about them. So learn about their church, learn about their business, learn about what makes them different from other people who do the same thing, learn about what their ideal client looks like. And then again, they're going to ask you the same questions, but always approach it with trying to learn about them. So you got to be consistent. Travis brought this up. That's really important. And then you got to just take some time and make a list. I've started with a very short list of great opportunities here that you can reach out to. The list can be much bigger than this as well. You can get into Medicaid caseworkers or people to network with. The thing that you always have to be aware of is whenever you're talking to somebody, you got to have that broad conversation of, does this person know other people that I can communicate with? So if you're in a home and they're obviously religious because of things they have on their walls, and they talk about going to church, don't leave that home without asking about their church and if their church would be open to having someone come and do a pre-planning workshop or seminar. And then just simply saying, who would I contact at your church to have this conversation? So that's part of asking for referrals, is to, if they say they're actively involved with the Lions Club or the Kiwanis group or whatever, you're going to, take that further and ask them who you can contact. So, so churches and clergy are a great place to start. I would try to contact them once a month, offer services, learn about them. You can offer a behind-the-scenes tour of the funeral home. You can offer lunch for them and the staff to come to the funeral home so they can get to know you a little bit better. Learn about any religious burial rites that are important to them, how they usually do services. You could create even a little worksheet that you can ask them some questions to kind of learn that when we serve a member of this congregation, this is how typically they like things to go. Again, learning more about them. So start with making a list of churches and clergy that you can reach out to. John brought this up as well, but estate planning attorneys are great. He mentioned that he talked to them and they will offer a free voucher for a 30-minute consultation. Again, reaching out to them, showing them the person which is organizer, explaining what you do, and then also just saying, again, you're going to refer them. A lot of the families I meet with don't have a will or a trust in place. What can I do? Can we create a program? So some have done like $100 will or a free simple will that they're actually willing to do this. Attorneys are actually willing to do free simple wills because a will, I'm not going to get into the technical side of this, but a will still forces probate, and attorneys make more on probate than they do on actually filing a simple will. But when probate comes around, it's a pretty good chance that they'll contact that attorney for the probate process. and through the probate process, they get a percentage of the estate. So attorneys will oftentimes do wills very inexpensively because they know that when the death occurs, that's really when they're going to make their income when that family goes through the probate process. So I've got a brother-in-law who's an attorney. I was asking him, how his business is going this last week, and they actually they put a little A-frame sign in front of their office, and they called May Free Will Month, and they gave out they did 100 wills a week just by having this sign in front that they're giving out these free simple wills. Now, some of them they've upgraded to other things, been part of that conversation, realizing that they have a larger estate and they need something more than just a simple will. But a lot of people, that's all that they need. So again, reaching out to families or reaching out to them and trying to create a program saying, a lot of the families I meet with personally don't have this stuff done. What can we do for them so that they call you? Again, the more you refer, the more referrals you're going to get. So, and then also you can coordinate. A lot of you already have a pre-need savings certificate, but you'll give that to the attorneys too. So if they're meeting with the family on a will and a trust, they haven't got their pre-need funeral planning done, you can give them some of these certificates, maybe put them in a folder, and just say if you're meeting with a family to do a will and they haven't got their pre-planning done, they get a special savings certificate if they call me to take care of their pre-need plan. So just some of the things to do with estate planning attorneys, which works well. Your community senior centers, most of these are funded by the county or the state, but there's always opportunities, and they're looking for things to do all the time. We've got members of our team that sponsor bingo once a month, for example. You can go to the dollar store, pick out a bunch of prizes. They're looking for people to call bingo. It's not something you want to do a lot of, but it's going to take an hour or two, but those relationships are strong. People will come up, and of course, consistency is important here. So if you say, I'm going to call bingo the third Thursday of every month, it's a 2-hour commitment, but those relationships are going to be strong. A lot of people that work there are volunteers. You'll get to know them. So you can sponsor lunch. We've done that before, where lunch at a senior center is usually fairly inexpensive, $2 or $3 per person. You can offer, usually they'll have 50 or 100 people there. You can offer to sponsor a lunch once a month and to give a presentation. There might be some other volunteer opportunities as well to strengthen relationships. Financial and estate planners, you have to be a little bit careful in this area because sometimes they see you as competition. So if you're going to do that, there are financial and estate planners who focus in the senior market, as John kind of talked about. Those young financial planners who are just getting into the business, who are trying to build their book of business, they'll pretty much write whatever they can. They're not really the ones to focus on, but if you find really established people who work in the senior market, they do long-term care, they do retirement plans, they really focus on that senior market. They're great people to talk to, and you're going to figure out real quick, as John, I love what John said, some of them are interested and some of them aren't. If they're not, don't try to convince them that, doing a pre-planned insurance policy is better than something else. Just move on to the next one until you have you only need a few of these that have a well-established business that are willing to share referrals back and forth. Again, show them the personal wishes organizer as a tool that they can offer to their clients as part of their estate plan to get their pre-need funeral arrangements written down. And then, of course, offering to partner for educational community seminars, which we've done a little bit of this too, where when you do a event at a restaurant that you've actually got 2 people participating, and of course, if you're going to do this, get with us on trying to make sure that there's shared time between the estate planner and the pre-need presentation. But there's there's some great opportunities there to be able to create relationships with estate planners. And then the last one I've got on here, and this is just a short list of things that I would probably focus on very first. The last one is the active senior living communities. These are the 55 and up, so apartments, condos. Sometimes there's whole cities that are actually active senior living communities. This is another area where you can go in and figure out who the activities director is. We recently did I don't know if did we ever do the ice cream social, or did that get shut down? Yeah. So Michael had scheduled a really cool event. I love the idea, but it was an ice cream social at an active senior living group. But unfortunately, we had the COVID thing happen just before that, so they didn't end up doing it, unfortunately. But there was a lot of, they were really excited to do this. You obviously bring in the ice cream and the scoops. You're serving ice cream and there to answer questions. So just look and be creative. If it's coffee and donuts, if it's pie and pre-planning or whatever, but you could do an event that would be something unique. And this is an active group, right? So you might also invite them to come to the funeral home and sponsor a lunch there. They're always looking for things to do to get them away from their apartment or whatever. And so, go ask for the activities directors. That's usually a full-time job for someone at those apartments or condos or whatever. There's someone that has that job as an activities director, and you can just brainstorm with them on something that you can do that would be fun and different to be able to create those relationships with those groups as well. So these are just some, again, a short list of ideas. Again, going back to the top, put a plan in place, list some contacts, and spend, at least John spending an hour each day in these contacts, but of your entire 8 or 9 hour workday, spending 30 minutes on networking calls is going to pay dividends if you just do it consistently. You guys have any questions about what we've covered so far, or any thoughts or ideas that you have in starting to do this more regularly?
I just want to say something to John. Fabulous presentation, and you are my hero. That was awesome.
And John put that together this morning, everyone. We said, hey, do you want to share a few minutes about what you've been doing? And that's what he did.
Crazy. That would have taken me 6 months.
Exactly. While we're talking up John, I mean, seriously, he's been so impressive with just how organized he is, and in the relatively short amount of time that he's been with us at Envision and at White Emerson, he's really grown those programs, and the directors and all the staff there are just thrilled with him. And so, of course, we are as well. So thanks again, John. We really appreciate you, man.
Great work.
So one thought that you might be having if you're newer to the business and you're on the call is that you don't know enough yet to do this. I can't tell you, get that out of your head. John is brand new. I think he's been doing this a few months now. And so you don't have to have this concept in your mind that, well, I don't really know enough about the funeral business to go out and start networking. You do. You already know more than 99% of the people that are out there just being in this business for a week. If you've gone through training, you know the personal wishes organizer, you know what the funeral home does. Don't let that stop you from getting out there and starting to build these relationships. You can start now. And it really is, because it's going to take some time. Create that list and start making contacts. I'm sure John will take your call if you want to ask him some questions about what he's saying and how he's approaching things. And then there's some suggestions here on this page that we'll be sending out to you too. So it really is just a matter of getting started. Don't hesitate, don't delay. Create a list of people that you want to start with. If you want to focus just on churches and have that be your focus for a month, that's what I would do. Pick a group, focus on that group for a month, and then go to the next group. Don't try to spread yourself too thin with a lot of different things you want to do. Focus on a group, identify the churches, do some homework. Most of them have got a website. You can usually figure out who the contacts are. They've got phone numbers. A lot of them you can find there during the week. Most of these are paid clergy positions, so it's very common that you can just walk through the door and find somebody to talk to, but just spend a little bit of time in working on those long-term relationships that we know, those who have really done well with this. It's really, again, as John said, instead of chasing the dollar, have the dollar chase you just a little bit. The only thing I would change about the picture, John, is when the dollar is chasing the person, he should not look scared anymore. He should be happy, right? So that was the only thing. But you're right. There's that when you're chasing the dollar, you're scared, but when the dollar is chasing you, you're not as scared. So,
And what I'll say about the new thing, so Amparo and some of you that have been doing this less than a year, I was new for at least 2 years because I learned very quickly that and Michael attests to this too, when I told people I was newer, they immediately went into, yes, how can I help you mode? I'm trying to get to know the community. I'm newer in this industry and I'm trying to learn everything I can about your business, about your community, senior living. Immediately, they just want to take you under their wing. I don't know if it's just people wanting to root for the underdog, but don't be embarrassed or shy away from the fact that you're new. Share that with people. If they can sense that you're coming from a genuine place, they will just want to help you more.
absolutely.
Yeah, very true.
Yeah.
So great job, John. Any other questions or thoughts for John or anyone?
Thank you so much again for being on the call today and spending an hour with us this afternoon. Again, work a plan and then start making contacts. It's going to take you a little bit of time, but just be consistent and you'll find that these groups will want to have relationships. I think now more than ever with everything that we're experiencing in the world today with COVID and even all these riots and things, I think we're all looking for more human connection. And I can't imagine a better time than right now to start to establish some of these partnerships and relationships. I think we're all hungry for that at this stage in our society. So now don't pull back from those. Just run towards them, and I think that people will be running towards you as well. So we wish you the best. This is just a whole nother way to prospect. Stay focused on your daily calls, as John said. This isn't the only thing you can do. You still have to chase the rabbit a little bit and keep doing that on the daily calls, but just setting aside a little bit of time each day to work on these bigger relationships will be very beneficial to all of you. So thanks, you guys, for being on the call today.
Thank you. Thank you, John.
Thank you.
Everybody.
Thanks, guys.
Take
Bye.
care.
Thank you.
Bye.